the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast. If you like going off-roading in Toyotas, wrenching on Toyotas, camping in Toyotas, and maybe even poking a little bit of fun at Toyotas, and of course, hearing about how awesome axles are in Toyotas, then this is the podcast for you. That's right, ladies and germs. My name is Tyler, and joining me for another fun axle talk episode is the one and only Jimmy Jett. I'm glad there's only one of you, by the way.
Me too. Can you imagine if I had a twin?
That would be, I don't know what kind of shenanigans you guys would get into.
It'd probably be an OnlyFans account.
Probably. Jeez. Oh, man. How you doing today, bud?
Good. Life is good. How are you?
Doing well.
Awesome.
Yep. Life is good. I agree.
How was the Rubathon?
It was fantastic as always.
Awesome.
I supplied internet to the Springs.
Cool.
Free of charge because I'm a nice person.
Did you take Kermit?
Yes.
We'll hear all about that on Thursday's episode.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to hearing the outcome.
Yep. Yeah, we'll talk about that on Thursday and get you all filled in and see how that went, see how it wheels.
Cool.
See how it performs. If Brian's suspension is as good as he says it is. Let's see. Today is a Monday episode, though. So we get to talk about some fun stuff that hopefully you guys get to learn a little bit of something from. I don't know. I don't recommend learning anything from us. The big disclaimer on this podcast is take everything we say with a grain of salt.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Including Jimmy's OnlyFans account with his twins. So,
yeah.
Except for the other podcast. The other podcast is where you want to go if you want to listen to something that you can learn about. So,
yeah, that one's actually very informative.
Yeah. And we need to drop that and put it under the Snail Trail brand sometime, or just leave it the way we're doing it.
I think we should leave it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Cool.
Let's see. What do we got for this month? We have a fun giveaway going on with some gear wrench tools. We got some bolt biter extraction kit. We have a bolt biter screw extractor kit and a ratcheting T-handle with all sorts of attachments there for all the different attachments. All of the attachments. There's 33 of them.
There are a ton of different varieties of attachments, that's for sure. From short to long, torque spits, square drives, Phillips, hex drives, all different kinds. I actually wish I had this.
I do too. That ratcheting T-handle would be super nice for hex keys.
Absolutely.
And stuff. So
yeah.
Anyways, some lucky winner is going to get it instead of us. Bastards.
Jerks.
In order to get signed up for that, head over to irate4x4.com and then down to the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast forum. And then all your sign up options will be on the right-hand side if you're on a computer. And they'll be down at the bottom if you're on a mobile device. So you get to choose everything you want there. A bunch of different options, but you have to be in at least the $10 tier, the giveaway tier, if you want to be considered for the giveaway.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just a friendly reminder that in October, the gift box tier is going to be opening. Mm-hmm. So put your mind on if you want to move up or move down. Mm-hmm. But we only open this tier twice a year and send out boxes twice a year. So the gift boxes will be going out in October or late September, hopefully.
Yep.
And you have an opportunity to get in October. So yeah, get in on that if you want. We also have a chance for you to win a set of Yokohama tires. Mm-hmm. Get in on our reviews over on Apple Podcast for once we get 750 reviews. We will be giving away a set of Yokohama tires. Pretty much any tire that you want at your choice with very small rules on what you're allowed to choose.
Yep.
So it's pretty awesome.
Yep. Small rules, big wheels.
Yes.
So nothing a 20-inch rim or more.
Yeah, and slicks.
And
Those
slicks,
are pretty much it.
DOT approved tires, 19-inch rims and under.
Yeah. That's really awesome. Mm-hmm. Let's see, a few other small updates to do today. Either the last day or it is closed for the winch group buy or payments. Yep. So if you haven't gotten a hold of Tyler by now,
I'm giving your winch away to somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So you're out of luck.
Yep.
However, Moose Knuckle group buy, you have a chance to get in for still, and that will go until the end of this month for you to get in.
30% off.
Yes.
30% off site-wide for Moose Knuckle for the group buy. So pay attention to the podcast. We're doing some fun stuff for you guys. Anybody who wants some Moose Knuckle paraphernalia, shoot me an email, tyler@snailtrail4x4.com. That's where I'm kind of gathering everything together for the group buy.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good. One more small bit of information on my end is that we are going to be permanently shutting down Patreon sometime in October. So if you are on Patreon, move over at the end of this month from September to October. If you're an annual subscriber on Patreon, which I don't know if we have any, we will honor the annual side on the iRate 4x4. So we just need to get in contact with you. You need an account on iRate, thank you. And we can get everything connected up as if you had already paid.
Yep. Cool. We got through those quick.
Yeah.
I was like, I think there's more because we're not far enough into the episode yet where we should be done with that. But
we're pretty good.
Yeah, we've been doing this a while. We can finally figure our crap out.
Hopefully, yeah. Well, I wanted to get through them quick so that because we have a fun topic for today.
We do have a fun topic today. We had a listener question come in and a lot of fun options to talk about. So we're bringing back the Axle Talk podcast. Greg B. Jelly. Jeff, too. I think Jeff's been listening or paying attention every once in a while. So
every blue moon.
Yeah. He kind of pokes his head and he's like, LOL, you guys are dumb.
Which is true.
It is true.
Yeah.
Which is why the disclaimers on our episodes.
And the E.
And the E, yes. That just means we're potty mouth dumb people. Anyway, so let's get over to today's campfire discussion, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right. This is one of my favorite topics. I know you love talking about it too. And we have quite a few listeners that love listening and talking about it. And this is definitely something that I would love to chat about around campfires. And I definitely have chatted about around campfires. So without further ado, grab your favorite food, your favorite beverage, and we'll be right on back with today's campfire discussion.
Do you want to put a Super Duty axle under a 4Runner or an FJ80 axle under a mini truck? At 4-Wheel Underground, we've designed and engineered the fitment, durability, predictability, and drivability for just about any axle you want to put under a Toyota off-road vehicle. Start your adventure with our suspension builder page over at 4wheelunderground.com.
Welcome back, ladies and germs. How's everybody doing out there today? We have a fun topic for you guys.
That we do.
Yeah.
We got a listener question in.
Mm-hmm.
Always fun to get those from you guys, whether it's a phone call or an email.
Mm-hmm.
And we get to discuss them online. Most of the time we just respond, but this was such a good question. We wanted to bring it to the discussion table for the podcast.
Yep, I agree. We wanted to bring it forward. I had actually a pretty fun conversation with him about all these different options and a couple of other options.
You have some insider information?
I know what he wants to do.
Okay.
So I know where he's going to end up, and I think it's pretty freaking rad, and I hope that he does it.
Okay. We'll talk about that at the end.
Yeah.
As a conclusion.
Yeah. All right. So question. Oh, I forgot to get the dude's name. I feel bad now. He's going to know exactly who he is once he hears it. So
it's not in the email?
I just copied the question down into my notepad, and I forgot to copy his name down, I guess.
All right. Do you know what he drives? What it is?
It's second gen 4Runner.
Second gen 4Runner.
Best gen 4Runner.
Maybe.
You shut your mouth over there. All right. So he starts off, says, "Hey man, I just got a second gen runner to build as a trail rig. I run Fordyce and Rubicon, but my biggest thing is snow wheeling."
Okay.
Does that sentence sound familiar to anybody out there?
Yeah. Me?
You?
No, maybe not.
You don't like snow wheeling. So it says, just debating which route I want to go with this.
Okay.
There are pretty much four options.
Four options.
You seem to run the same trails and same type of wheeling I do, so your input would be great. The four options I have are to stay with the stock front and rear diffs, do dual cases, lockers, stronger CVs and axle shafts, and stay on 35s.
Okay.
So that's the Toyota IFS system.
Yep.
Which I believe on the second gen 4Runners, are they torsion bars?
Yes.
So torsion bar in the front, coiled in the rear on these really tiny short arm links
in
the rear.
Probably a 7.5 diff in the front.
7.5 clamshell in the front,
Yeah.
and then 8-inch in the rear.
Mhm.
Yeah, with IFS with axle housing. So that's the first option.
Okay. On
Du-
dual T cases and 35-inch tires.
Yep.
Okay.
Second option would be to essentially go with a Toyota straight axle in the front
Okay.
and something similar to a Ford 8.8 in the rear.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Leaf-sprung front and rear, run 37s or 40s. And I'm assuming dual cases still.
Right.
So that's option number 2. Option number 3, Dana 60 in the front, 14 bolt in the rear, leaf-sprung, hydro assist, and run 40s or 42s.
Okay. So wait, 60 front,
Mhm. 60 front, 14 bolt rear,
14 rear.
Mhm.
What was the second thing?
hydro assist,
Hydro assist. Okay.
run 40s or 42s.
40s or 42s. Probably dual cases also there.
Yeah. Yeah. Just assume dual cases on all these.
Okay.
Last option I like the most is
Did he say if he was still going to be leaf sprung on that one?
leaf-sprung. Yeah. Sorry, 60 14 bolt leaf-sprung.
I'm writing this down so I can talk about it
Mm-hmm.
as we're going down the line.
Yep. Last option I like the most is
Yeah, this one's unique.
in the front, do an AAM 9.25 front diff, which is an IFS 9.25 off of like diesels, like
Okay.
2500 class trucks.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
Chrysler trucks, I believe. Duramax axle shafts and spindles with custom upper and lower control arms.
Wow. Okay. That's ambitious.
14 bolt in the rear on 40s or 42s.
Yeah.
I'd love to get your opinion on the topic because there seems to be divided opinions on 1-tons versus Toyota axles versus IFS.
Got it. Yeah.
So there you go. There's his 4 options that he brought up.
I am very interested in one of those.
Mm-hmm.
The solid axle swap with the mini truck axle. What rear?
The
Yeah.
8.8. So he said like a Ford 8.8 in the rear, but I'm like, you can't get a 520. You can't get to the same gear sets
Oh.
with a Ford 8.8.
Think of that. Yeah, that makes sense. You can't get close.
You might be able to get close. You could probably do like
I wonder if
529s and 538s.
or 513s. I wonder if that.
513s and 529s.
How far do you want to be off? Less than 10%?
Yeah,
I don't know if that math works out.
I think
but
you have to do the 529s and 538s.
yeah.
But you're not running on pavement then, which he
Yeah.
said it's a trail rig.
Well,
so
not 4x4. At least
Yeah.
you can drive 2-wheel drive.
That's true.
Anywhere.
That's true.
Okay, well let's run down the list again.
Okay.
Now that I have it all written down. So the first option is more or less keep it stock.
Mm-hmm.
Go
Beef
30
up the components.
beef up the components, dual T cases, 35-inch tires.
Yep.
Second option is a solid axle swap with a mini truck
Mhm.
housing. Bigger rear axle,
Mm-hmm.
so it's not an 8-inch.
Mhm.
Dual cases, 37s.
Yep.
The next one is full widths, 14 bolt in the rear, 60 in the front, still on leaf springs, dual cases, 40s or 42s.
Mhm.
And then the unique one, something I've never
Yeah.
heard of
Uh-huh.
or thought about, is a massive IFS front diff, like a 9.25, custom control arms, Duramax, what do you call those?
Duramax shafts and spindles.
Shafts and spindles,
Mhm.
14 bolt in the rear, and then 40s or 42s.
Yep.
So I vote for the custom front end
That was my vote.
just because I think it's awesome and nobody's really done it that I know of.
Yep.
But what do I think might be the easiest?
Yeah, it's a good question,
Would
right?
probably be the mini truck front end.
Mhm.
What do I think would be the best for snow wheeling? Because I think that's really what he is saying.
Mhm.
I would vote for the custom IFS.
I would agree. So the IFS, you're going to have more stuff hanging down, but it's like a sled at that point.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the benefit of snow wheeling with an IFS. The problem with snow wheeling in IFS is typically you can't get big enough tires on IFS vehicles in order to float and stay on top of the snow.
Okay.
That's usually the biggest issue with IFS. But this, running a Chevy Duramax, a 2500 class truck front end on a 4Runner, you could probably get some bigger enough tires on there
Yeah.
if you can get everything clearanced right. So,
for sure. I think that'd
yeah.
be interesting.
Mhm.
One thing I would be curious about, and this is, getting nitty gritty, is if the bolt patterns are going to be the same.
Chevy bolt pattern is the same as
14 bolt.
as a 14 bolt. Yeah. Well, Chevy has some 14 bolt options. I believe they're old though.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I think, that there might be a little hold up there. I wonder if a Sterling might be a better option, bolt pattern wise. But I mean, that's sort of trivial stuff. You could figure that out, or you could probably just make spacers that will
call Bora.
Yeah. Yep. Call Bora up in Reno area, and they'll help you out.
So let's run down the options.
Okay, let's do that
and talk one by one.
Sure.
So for running Fordyce and Rubicon, option number 1, keeping everything stock but beefing it all up.
Yes, but I wouldn't want to do it.
I wouldn't take a stock 2nd gen 4Runner control arms through Fordyce. I just wouldn't, with torsion bars and everything. I think you're just asking for trouble on 35s, especially too. Like they're constantly grooming Fordyce to bring it down in difficulty to be okay to do on 35s and struggle on 35s. So right now you're still struggling on 37s and 40s on Fordyce.
Yeah.
I don't think that a locked front end with a Toyota IFS system is going to do very well.
No, it's going to not be a fun ride.
No.
It could probably do it.
Could probably do it once, maybe twice. But if you're up there a lot.
Yeah. I mean, on our river run, we had 2 Jeeps that were on 35s.
Yeah, but they're solid axle.
Yeah.
The Toyota IFS, those tie rods are pencils.
They are. That is true.
And the CVs are a lot smaller than anything you'll get in even a Dana 35 axle shaft.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that would be my main concern, taking a locked Toyota IFS down there.
Yeah. I'd be interested in doing that long arm kit on that.
Mm-hmm.
That would be kind of interesting because that would gain you a little bit more ground clearance, a little bit more articulation, and you could beef that up a little bit. But that's not this option. So
yeah,
that has always been a thought of mine to
how Josh's truck is set up. Yeah, it'd be fun to see Josh go down Fordyce.
Yeah,
I think that'd be interesting.
That'd be pretty wild.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I wouldn't want to run Fordyce on stock Toyota setup.
No.
And 35-inch tires with dual cases.
Mm-mm. I wouldn't either. So I'm going to say nix the front option.
Sure.
Or the first option.
Yeah.
Second option, Toyota straight axle. And let's just say, for the sake of argument, the rear I recommended to him would be an 8.4 Tacoma axle. Yeah. Get the E-locker out of like a TRD off-road and put that in as his rear axle.
Sure.
So let's just say that's the second option.
Okay.
So Toyota straight mini truck axle in the front, 8.4 in the rear, leaf-sprung 37s or 40s.
Yep. That can run anything, Rubicon or Fordyce. I mean, that's Bobcat.
Yep. Essentially, that is Bobcat, 100%. It's actually Kermit, the old Kermit.
Yeah.
And it does Rubicon, does Fordyce great. It does snow wheeling great because you got these tiny little 8-inch pumpkins on 40s.
Yeah.
And you have a bunch of ground clearance. You're not dragging diffs. I was very happy with how Kermit worked in the snow and Rubicon and Fordyce.
Right.
So the reason why I wanted to change Kermit is because I'm starting to do more stuff out in Moab and I want to go out to Sand Hollow.
Right.
And I'm not taking Kermit the way how narrow and tall he was to those anymore.
Sure. Understood.
I learned my lesson at Moab Rim.
Yes.
So anyways, I think the second option, extremely doable, easy. All the information is there. It's been done a lot of times over. So it would be a relatively quick with leaf springs setup to be able to do.
Yeah. I mean, it's very standard, right? That it's like the typical Toyota that's out on the trail.
Yep.
That you're matching right there.
Yep.
That makes sense.
The only problem with that is mini truck straight axles are getting hard to find.
That's true.
And they're getting hard to find, they're getting to be more expensive. You can almost get 05 and up Super Duty axles for cheaper than you can get Toyota mini truck axles right now.
Yeah, you know, that is true. I saw a fully built Toyota mini truck axle for sale for $1,300.
Yep.
And I saw a Super Duty 06 Super Duty that still had the discs on it for $900.
Yep.
I was like, what?
It's crazy. And so I think the easiest, most straightforward option would be option number 2. But is it the cheapest? Is it the most budget friendly option?
Budget friendly?
I don't think it is
I don't
anymore.
know. Yeah. I would say a 60, if you're doing an 06. So third option was 60 14 bolt leaf spring duals on 40s or 42s.
Which has also been replicated quite a bit.
It has.
In Toyota mini trucks and 4Runners.
I think if you're going to do a 60 in the front, if you're doing a Super Duty 60, you probably should look at a Sterling axle over a 14 bolt.
100%.
If you're doing a Kingpin, then you want the 14 bolt.
Yep.
Yeah.
So here's the fun part about that is that you need a passenger drop, assuming he's running a passenger drop transfer case that is in his 4Runner right now.
Yes.
So if you need a passenger drop, you're limited to Chevy Kingpin Dana 60s from the late 70s.
Okay.
And those are getting super rare to find as well.
Got it. Yeah.
Those are getting a premium price on them too right now, kind of like mini truck axles, because you just can't find them anymore.
Right.
So you're going to have to get a Super Duty axle, Ford Super Duty, and flip it to be a passenger drop. Or when you're building your dual transfer cases, go driver drop. And that way you can get a front Super Duty and just slap it in.
Yeah. So can you rotate the T case like that?
You'd have to go with a 3/4 transfer case.
Okay.
So
I think one of the companies, Marlin or Trail Gear, does make a
clock.
Not clocked. Well, Marlin, I know, has a clocked T case adapter. But I think one of them has a whole, like, instead of left hand, it's a right hand, or I mean, right side or driver side.
Yeah.
Setup.
I don't know who does. I know Inchworm used to do it.
Yeah.
That's what my dad is running. He has an Inchworm in his.
Okay.
Well, he had before he swept over to the manual transmission. So in his automatic, he had the Inchworm rotator flip thing. So yeah, that's what you're going to have to contend with. If you go with a Dana 60 front end.
Yeah. So that does raise the question, is it more budget friendly?
Exactly.
If you have to find this old school axle because you have a passenger drop T case setup.
But that's what I was struggling with when I was looking at what to do with my axles. I wanted to go with a Dana 60, something 35 spline, but it's getting harder and harder to find Chevy Kingpin 60s.
Interesting. Yeah. I'm going with the argument right now because I don't have full widths.
Yeah.
37 and 8-inch ring gears or 8-inch axles. I have more ground clearance than I do with 40s and full widths.
And Dana 60 pumpkins. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. You do.
So to me, there's an argument there that it's easier wheeling because I have better ground clearance overall. I don't have the width that the full widths give you for stability on off camber items or obstacles, but I can drive over bigger rocks than with stuff that you can't with full widths.
Yeah. Yep.
Now I don't know about 42s.
Yeah.
That might actually that might beat it.
About the same.
Or about
would be
the
my
same.
guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that one of the main reasons that I'm staying on 37s these days is because I have superior ground clearance than I would if I had full widths.
Yep. I agree. That's definitely a concern, which brings me to bonus option number 1.
Okay.
That I talked about with him, which is doing FJ80 axles.
Bonus option number, option number 5.
Option number 5. yeah.
Okay.
Option that he didn't bring up, but I was like, because the big thing about snow wheeling up here is you need high ground clearances.
Yes.
So you can stay floating on top of the snow and not drag your undercarriage.
Okay.
So I was like, an 8-inch, if you can stay in 8-inch diffs, it's a good place to be for NorCal.
Yeah.
And so I was like, have you thought about FJ80 axles?
It also depends on how heavy of a foot you are.
100%. Totally. Yeah. And so I didn't ask him what engine he had, if he has a 3.0 or the 22RE. So we didn't talk about that. But either way, I think the 3.0 puts out marginally more horsepower than the 22RE.
Yeah.
So.
But it does. I mean, if you have a heavy foot, you're going to break that 8-inch.
Yeah, totally.
It's just the way it is.
So we talked about that. And I was like, have you thought about doing a high pinion 8-inch? High pinion 8-inch is a pretty damn strong differential.
Yes.
Because it's pushing on the correct side of the gear set with the reverse cut gears. And he said he hadn't considered it. And I was like, I mean, that'd be another route to go. However, FJ80 front axles are even harder to get than mini truck axles right now. So really, you're going to be limited. You'd be better off finding an 8-inch high pinion third member and then a custom housing and building an FJ80 with front axle from there, like what we did with Corey.
Yeah.
And his 4Runner. And so talking to him about that option, then running either you can run a Tacoma 8.4 axle in the rear or a Land Cruiser 9.5-inch axle in the rear. You're going to be close enough in overall width on those two axles to match the front axle if you do an FJ80 front axle. And you keep the 8-inch in the front. 8.4 in the rear would be great for ground clearances. 9.5 is going to be great for the width and the strength overall. You're essentially looking at that Land Cruiser 9.5-inch axle as similar strength to a Dana 60.
Yeah.
Not similar strength to a 14 bolt, but a Dana 60 rear, pretty equivalent.
Pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
The issue that I have with the FJ80 axles is the axle shaft.
Oh yeah, it's your 1 1/4 inch, 1.3.
It's the same size as a mini truck.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, yeah, your ring and pinion's beefier, but you still are running pencil axle shafts.
Dana 44 axle shafts, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. 30 spline Dana 44 size axle shafts, which in a second gen 4Runner, if you don't overload it like I do, should be fine. And even still overloaded, I never broke a rear axle shaft. But the nice thing about those, the Land Cruiser 9.5s is you can find them in full float configurations.
True. That is true. Yep. Which I would absolutely do if I had those Land Cruiser axles.
Yeah.
That is an item that I have been considering throwing underneath Bobcat.
Yeah. I love FJ80 axles are freaking awesome axles for lighter weight rigs. You get the strength of equivalent to a Dana 60 in the rear on a lightweight vehicle. Like under Bobcat, it'd be like a Dana 70.
Yeah. I wonder about the ground clearance though.
That 9.5 is going to sit down lower for sure, especially in a stock housing.
Yep.
The other thing to consider is that it's an offset diff.
Yes.
In a stock housing.
Yep. So, and my guess is, I mean, because I'm going with what 4Runner Dave ran through, that stock diff runs right into your gas tank.
Yep.
So he had to like flip his whole axle around
upside down
and invert it or whatever.
Yep.
Because I think the guy that originally did it, I think he cut off the axle where the dome is and moved over the bolt pattern to the other side so he could flip the axle over and rotate it.
Jeez. Wow.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure about how they did all that, but there's some work that needs to be done to fit that underneath a mini truck, second gen mini truck, third gen mini truck, or a first and second gen 4Runner.
Yep. Yeah, the clearances already, I mean, just with a Toyota 8-inch in the rear axle, you're 3 inches, 2 to 3 inches from the gas tank.
Yeah.
With that Land Cruiser rear axle stock housing, you're going to be running into the gas tank.
Right.
So with your drive shaft and your pinion flange. So there's that to consider, which is why I threw out option number 6.
Okay.
Just custom FJ80 axles.
Right.
So run that 8-inch high pinion in the front in the custom housing. Build it to FJ80 width so you can still use FJ80 axle shafts and FJ80 burr fields, FJ80 knuckles, get the Hellfires, and you're going to have a plenty strong front end axle that's going to be able to do Fordyce, it's going to be able to do Rubicon, and it's going to keep high ground clearances for snow wheeling.
Right.
And then if you do a Land Cruiser third member, 9.5 in the rear, you have to get one side, essentially build it to one of the stock shafts, right?
Yeah.
So you can get the stock length shafts, either the short side or the long side. I'd personally build it for the long side shafts.
Sure.
But you center out that pumpkin and then run 2 long side shafts. And you're going to be a little bit wider in the rear, but not enough, especially on a trail rig. It's not going to make a difference. So that was kind of the option number 6.
Yeah.
I'm also a big fan of for his build.
Well, something I've thought of in regards to that is if you're going to, since the rear axle is offset and if you are centering the pumpkin and you're going to run long sides on both sides, I would use a custom axle in the front.
Yeah. And just match it.
And I would use the long side as normal and then extend the width on the short side and just buy a custom axle shaft for that one side.
That would be a good way to go.
Yeah.
That is actually, that right there, that combo is what I was considering for a very long time with my axle shaft, with my axles. before somebody just in my mind just was like, dude, you just have to do the 10.5-inch Tundra third members because they're badass. I was like, you know what? You're right.
Yeah. And if I'm doing all that custom work, I don't know if I would do an 8-inch high pinion. I might do a 9.5.
A 9.5 low? Interesting.
Just because they're bigger.
They are bigger, so the third member is going to have more strength to it, but you're pushing on the weak side of the gears, right?
I agree.
I would stay with the 8-inch just because of his snow wheeling. Because he wants to go snow wheeling, and you want as much ground clearance as you can get.
Okay. I won't argue that, but I just think for wheeling, not snow wheeling, for actual rock crawling, I think, I don't know. Like there's a good argument there whether the 9.5 is stronger.
Yeah.
Or a high pinion 8.
I think the gear set would be stronger on the 8-inch high pinion, but the overall, the third member, the extra pinion bearing, the bigger pinion in the 9.5, everything is a much more meatier in that 9.5. So you get less deflection with it and everything too.
Yeah. I don't know which way I would go. It would be interesting.
So I asked Chai this question.
Yeah, I know.
Because he's done it both ways now.
Okay.
And I was like, which route would you, now that you've done it both ways, which route do you prefer? The 8-inch high pinion or 9.5 low? And he said 8-inch high pinion.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I would probably consider that also because it's just more ground clearance all around. Yeah. That's interesting.
And as long as you're good at, not jumping your vehicle and shock loading your drivetrain, should do just fine.
Yep.
But I don't know. It's a fun talk, right? A fun discussion about
absolutely
stuff.
Well, we haven't even gotten to option 4 yet.
We haven't. Okay. So
you
now,
jumped from 3 to 5 and 6.
I did. Because we got into talk about the front end and how do you deal with the Dana 60. So option 4,
yes,
which is a really fun option, I think, is essentially taking a Chevy Duramax diesel tow rig front end, which is IFS, and slapping it under a second-gen 4Runner.
Yeah.
I love it.
I don't know how you would do that in theory. I mean, I would probably cut the frame off of the front and see if you would match up and weld on, hopefully.
Yeah, you'd have to cut all your IFS stuff off, and you're probably going to have to build a new frame, would be my guess.
Yeah, and I think it's awesome.
I agree.
I would love to see this done. I think there's so much work, though, that would need to go into this. It would almost be pointless. It'd be one of those things that you would once they're done, you'd be like, this is badass. I can't believe you did this.
Yeah.
You are the only person that's ever going to do this, but it is absolutely phenomenal.
Yes.
But I hope he does this.
I do too. This is my Super Tundra axle idea, right? So I don't think anybody should do it. It took way too much time. It actually turned out to be less expensive than doing, full Spider Track axles.
Yeah.
But it took me 3 years to do it.
Yeah.
So was it really worth it? The savings and money
I don't know.
to do 3 years? This option, I really want to see if he goes through with doing a Duramax front end under a 4Runner.
Yeah.
Second gen 4Runner.
I think it'd be rad. I mean, you could, because it's a 9 1/4 front diff. I mean, that's beefy.
That's a big diff.
It's going to hang down though.
It will hang down. He's going to have to skid plate it up and really protect it. I don't know if it would actually work. I mean, in theory, all you're doing, you'd have to get something that you can match the available gear ratios in that diff. And I don't know if there's a lot of gear ratios available for that diff for rock crawling gears.
You probably want whatever rear axles out of that same truck, put it back there.
That'd be my assumption. But I'm just thinking drivetrain wise, would it work? I think you can, there's enough adaptability there. Like you can have your drive shafts adapt from the Toyota drivetrain down to your Chevy axles.
Yeah.
You can do different flanges. You can always custom make drive shaft flanges if you really need to. Sure. I think gear ratios are going to be your biggest thing on that setup, and clearance. I mean, I think just packaging is going to be the biggest issue. I mean, how big I don't know a whole lot about Duramax control arms.
Right.
And Duramax coilovers and Duramax bumps and how that whole front end goes together, how it attaches to the frame, how far out do those control arms stick? Do they need more clearancing with the fenders? There's so many packaging questions I have that I'm like, I mean, technically it's all just metal. So you just...
Yeah. Well, he wanted to do custom control arms.
True. Okay. Fair.
But you still have to, I mean, if you're doing custom control arms, then you can do custom mounting solutions. If if you're going that far, I just think the 9 1/4 IFS front diff is so much larger than a 7 1/2 clamshell that you're gonna lose some ground clearance up there.
Yeah, either that or you're gonna have to have so much lift in order to clear the 9 1/2 underneath the oil pan. It's gonna put your CVs at too much of an angle or something. I don't know. It's gonna be
there's a lot of unknowns.
There's a lot of unknowns there, and as far as I know, I don't think anybody's ever done this.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to figure out everything on your own. So hopefully I don't know anything about his background of fabrication or his mechanic skills. If he's considering all these options, I would assume that he has at least a semi-decent knowledge of how to do it all.
Sure.
But yeah, man, Chevy Duramax front end under a 2nd gen 4Runner. I think that'd be pretty fun.
That'd be pretty rad. You'd be the only one, and as far as we know, and it would definitely be unique. It'd probably get you on Ultimate Adventure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that I vote for that option only because I want to see it done.
That's kind of what I said too. And he said after talking with him over, I don't know, we talked for a couple hours back and forth about different options and stuff. He said that he's still leaning more towards that option the most. I was like, good. I really hope you go that option. I was like, I never want to do that option myself, but if somebody else does it, hell yeah, I'm cheering you on the whole time.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm really kind of curious how much lift you would need from compared to what it is stock. Cause I mean, we might just be falling back on the same argument that I have with 60s front and rear compared to Toyota mini trucks, right? That his stock performance on 35s might be more clearance than this Duramax front end.
Very well could. I mean, if you think about it, it very well could, right? And the other thing with IFS in the snow, it acts kind of like a sled, but because you have such big skid plates, there's more surface area that's touching the snow when you're snow wheeling.
So more drag?
There's more drag there than a solid axle and a pumpkin. So that's something else to kind of consider. You really, if you're going to be doing the Duramax front end, I think for snow wheeling, you really got to be up on 42s.
Right.
And then there's the question of, can the CVs in the front axles handle 42s?
Yeah.
On a Duramax setup? I would imagine they could, but I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's also one of those things when you're in the snow, you just don't break anything.
You never break in the snow, so you'll be fine.
Nobody breaks in the snow. So you might as well throw on the largest tires possible.
49s.
There you go.
Go to some 49-inch IROCs on the Duramax front end.
Yeah. That's cool. I'm really kind of curious what other people would do.
Yeah.
How they would set theirs up. I really like, and lately I've been really leaning towards the FJ80 options. I think that it's a neat thing to do. I was, just out on the Rubicon with Dirt Lifestyle Nate, and he was alluding to doing axle swaps on his new 80.
Okay.
And going to full widths because they're less maintenance. There's less bolts to tighten. There's less, moving parts in a way.
He just doesn't like the Toyota knuckles.
Like probably not. Probably not. We're used to it.
Yeah.
But there is something to be said about, I don't want to say reliability. That's what I was going to say. But I mean, just maintenance, care and maintenance. Ease of maintenance. Yeah.
I guess if stuff is easier to maintain, you're more likely to do it kind of thing. But in my opinion, the Toyota axles need less maintenance because it's all put together so well. And there's so much grease in the knuckles that, I mean, unless you're blowing seals all the time, like Jimmy does.
Hey.
They last a really long time because they have so much grease and lubricant in them already.
Yeah.
I don't know. If he gets rid of them, would you be getting his FJ80 axles then?
I have thought about inquiring about that.
I will admit, watching Re-Rim do everything he does in his cruiser, and never really having axle problems except on Barrett Lake when he broke the Burfield. Now we have the Burfield Chalice.
Yep.
Those axles can handle a lot of abuse.
They really can.
Lee is not friendly to those axles.
No, they are not.
So I'm like just watching Lee do the shit that he does with his cruiser and how heavy it is. God, that thing must weigh 7,000 pounds.
Yeah.
The white whale and the abuse he puts into those axles, and just to have blown one Burfield on Barrett Lake because he bound everything up really bad and kept pushing through it.
Yep.
I'm like, the FJ80 axles are a phenomenal platform to build some axles off of for Toyota stuff. So under Bobcat, you'd be undestructible. Indestructible.
What about under Samantha?
Yeah, with the links.
Yeah.
So here's the other question. Should he stay leaves? He never talked with him about the leaf springs, the suspension.
Right.
But that's another thing, right? That's into all this is, if you're cutting all the IFS off in the front end and looking at going solid axle or building a new frame and throwing a Duramax front end under it, should he stay leaf sprung?
I don't know. I mean,
I don't think he should.
Well, definitely if he's doing IFS, you can't link it.
True. You
can link the rear.
Yeah, true.
But I think that's one of those. If he's doing the Duramax front, I think he should link the rear.
100%. You're going to be putting that much work into it.
Right.
You should probably link the rear.
If he's doing mini truck axles, I think, if it's a budget build, you're going to be putting leaf springs under there. If he's doing the 60 front and rear, I would maybe do radius arms front.
Oh, like a Super Duty radius arm setup? Yeah.
If he can. If that works for him. If he does, if he has to do that passenger drop, he'll have to flip the Super Duty axle around. And when you do that, you got to cut all the brackets off. None of the brackets are going to line up anymore for the radius arms. So you got to do new brackets anyways. Yeah. So I would probably link it at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're having to do if you want to go, I would agree. 60. If you're doing a 60 in the front, I think linking it would be the way to go for sure in the front. And then I think Toyota axles, like a mini truck axle and an 8-inch or an 8.4 in the rear. I think leaf springs would be fine under it. I mean, mine did just fine. If all he's doing is Rubicon, Ford Ice, and snow wheeling, I think it's just fine. It works great. It's a great setup. But after seeing the difference now, what Kermit is with a linked system in it, I'm like, if you're going to have everything cut off and a blank frame to put whatever you want on there, I would probably recommend going links. If he's going to be saving some money by doing some Toyota axles, I don't know about saving money on Toyota axles anymore. Jeez. Yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I guess it comes down to, are you okay with axle wrap?
Yeah. I think it comes down to just finances. I mean, I think if it's within your budget, I would link it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it really comes down to that.
Yeah.
If you can, you should. If it's not in your budget yet, then throw leaf springs under it, wheel it for a year or two, and then link it later.
Yeah, save up for the links.
But that's coming from a dude that has been wheeling leaf-sprung vehicles for almost 15 years.
Yeah.
So I don't, I'm hoping to be able to get into build my own linked rig here in the near future and experience this and have some insight whether, is it really worth it?
Yeah. It'll be interesting to have Samantha and Bobcat side by side and be able to wheel both of them and see what the differences are, see how they handle, see how they perform. I think it's going to be a really fun experiment.
I do too.
Yeah.
The major difference might be tire size and cab length or wheelbase length.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see.
Minus the suspension.
Yeah.
But I think that it is gonna be an interesting test. I mean, because I've also been wheeling Bobcat for 15 to 20 years. And now I'm gonna maybe jump into another rig and test it out and see what the difference is.
Yep. Option number 7.
Tracks.
No, maybe.
Portals.
Yeah. Option number 7 is to find a way to put portals on, and you may have to go with Jeep axles in order to do that. Some JK takeoffs.
Daydream at one point. Find some JK or Gladiator takeoffs because a lot of Gladiator people are getting rid of their 44 front and rears and going to 60s.
Yep.
And then you just throw portals on those.
Throw some leaf springs on with portals. Dude, that's all you need.
Yeah.
And he'll be able to do everything and excel at Rubicon, Fordyce, and snow wheeling easy with a set of portals and leaf springs.
Yep.
So
I saw a set of 44s takeoffs of a Gladiator on Marketplace for $2,500
for both of them. That's a fair price. I don't think it's a great deal.
I think that's a little steep, but it's a fair price.
Yeah.
I felt.
Yeah.
So you're looking at $2,500 and a little over 20 grand.
Yeah.
For the portals.
Yep.
So you're like $2,500.
Yeah.
But you don't have to change your suspension at all.
No.
Well, he would.
Yeah.
This gentleman would to get a solid axle in the front.
Mm-hmm.
But if I did that underneath Bobcat,
yeah, you'd be set.
I'd be set.
Mm-hmm.
That's just another 20 grand.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll be my third build.
I was gonna say you may know somebody that can get you a set of portals for cheaper.
Yeah. Maybe.
Man.
Ooh.
Options.
I
7
know.
options so far.
7 options.
Any more options?
I'm sure we can find another one.
Let's see. What would be another option? I think that there's a great way to build some Super Tundra axles. if you want to go stupid, the solid axle stupid instead of IFS stupid.
All right. So let's back up a second.
Yeah.
So we talked a lot about rock crawling, but let's actually go down this list and talk about snow wheeling.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So stock setup, 35s.
I don't think you're going anywhere in the Sierras.
You're having a really tough time. You're going to be following friends and hoping they're going to tug you along.
Exactly.
Right. I agree. Going up to original Kermit, the OG Kermit or Bobcat, I think you'll do pretty good.
Yeah. I agree.
You weren't on 37s. You were on 40s, but you wheeled all kinds of places. You went everywhere.
Yeah. 40s do awesome. 40-inch tires on 8-inch axles in a 5,000 pound or lower rig does great up here in the Sierras.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful formula right there. If you can keep your rig into those 3 criteria, it does awesome up here in the wintertime.
And I think the mini truck SAS with, we were saying the 8.4 rear axle, dual cases, 37s for the summer, throw the 40s on for the winter.
Yeah.
And you've got a great setup right there.
Yep. Or here's another option.
Option 12.
What Tour Guide Taco did. And did a Dana 44 with Dana 60 outers in the front end. And that would keep you a small pumpkin. I think those are 8.5, 8 3/4 inch ring gears. So a small pumpkin, super strong outers, and it keeps you your ground clearance. And he does everything on 37s. Great.
He really does.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he also has a driver drop pumpkin.
Oh, that's right, because he has a 3/4.
And so I don't know what 44 you'd be looking for that.
You'd have to flip it over, I think. Wagoneer.
Wagoneer is the only one that I know of that has a passenger side drop.
Yeah.
So I think you're also running into rare territory for axles, unless you want to do customs.
Yep.
Let's move on to option 3.
Okay.
60s front and rear. He said 14 bolt, but I'm just saying 60s front and rear, 40s, 42s.
I think that would work. I think you're going to have the same ground clearance or less on 40s with those axles as 37s with Toyota axles.
I agree.
Yeah.
So I think the actual mini truck setup would be slightly better in the snow wheeling conditions. It might not be as strong, but you don't really need strength in snow wheeling because anytime
traction in snow wheeling and ground clearance. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think the ground clearance aspect for snow wheeling leans towards the solid axle truck mini truck axle.
Option number 2.
Option 2, 37s.
Yep.
Or 40s for snow wheeling.
Yeah.
I agree. So option number 4, his option number 4, Duramax front and 14 bolt rear, 40. I would hope 42s on this.
That's got to do 42s.
We did allude to it a little earlier. We don't know.
I don't know. There's so many unknowns with this. I think it could do awesome.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah. In theory, I think it sounds great. But I mean, how much room is that 9 1/4 front diff going to take up? I mean, that's bigger than a Dana 44 diff. So
yeah,
that's equivalent to 90s Dana 60s, 9 1/4.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
well, let's just say it takes up 2 more inches underneath from the stock to Tacoma.
At least because you have the IFS crossmember as well under there.
Well, The stock Tacoma or stock pickup 4Runner, excuse me, all these were wrong. The stock second gen 4Runner has a 7.5.
Yeah.
And this is a 9.5.
9.25.
0.25. So if we just moved the cross member and everything down 2 inches, there's a whole bunch of maybe the housing's larger and all these other things are bigger. But I mean, if you moved everything down 2 inches, that's roughly in my mind where it could sit.
Yeah.
2 inches.
That's a lot of ground clearance.
Is a lot of ground clearance gone.
Yeah. That's 4 inches in a tire size.
Yeah. That is going from 35s at stock to 39s.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to go 40s or 42s. Hopefully he goes 42s with that cool setup.
Mm-hmm.
You would gain more ground clearance if everything in our random assessment lines up properly. But that's all guess.
Yeah.
Really is.
It really is a guess. I want to see it done because I do have questions and I'm like, I want to see how this would work.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is a dude out there with a Honda Ridgeline with a Humvee chassis.
Oh, interesting.
Under it. And so he's on a Humvee chassis with the Humvee portals and everything. And he put the
IRS
and IRS, IFS, IRS, and put the Honda Ridgeline truck on top of it. And he's running like 44s on it or something like that. And I'm like, that's a badass build. Every time I see that truck, it's fun to look at and fun to see what he did.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this could be kind of something similar. Like,
yeah. It could be the one unique rig that everybody's going to be looking at that goes, that's awesome. That's really cool. I'm glad somebody finally went out of the box and did something.
Yeah.
And yeah, hopefully he does.
Yeah.
I want to see it.
Yeah. We'll have to have him follow up along his journey and see what he finally decides and commits to. And then follow along with his journey as he starts putting it all together.
Absolutely. Yeah. Cool. Well, I want to know what everybody else thinks. Please call in. Let us know which build you would do 1 through 12 or whatever we got up to.
Yeah.
What your suggestions would be, what you would want to see or have him do, or what you would highly suggest. You can call in area code 916-345-4744 and let us know.
Yep. I guess that about does it. So I'm curious. You can reach us out on social media, email as well. We've got all those. You guys know how to do that. So Jimmy, final words for everybody out there to close out the Axle Talk podcast.
Get a 3rd gen 4Runner.
And with that, my friends, keep crawling.
I got one for you.
Joke time. Ready.
Did you hear about the red and blue ships that collided?
Negative?
No, it was really sad. All the sailors were left marooned.
Okay. I was trying to think of something purple.
Yeah, that would work too.